Bob is totally devoted to training and achieving his goal of becoming the strongest fighter in the world. Unfettered by societal expectations of the ideal body, Bob realizes that the most effective way to become stronger is to gain mass. True to his origin story, Bob is a simple, direct, no-nonsense character. He excels at smothering the opponent with hard-hitting 50-50s and damaging poke strings. Bob lives and dies by momentum, and while he does have to take risks, once this big boy gets rolling, it's hard to stop him. Bob is often referred to as the fourth Mishima, and it's easy to see why. With his wave dash, he can close the gap at an alarming speed, and the opponent has to respect his approach thanks to Crouch Dash 1, a fast counter-hit launcher that's only -2 on block, meaning Bob still has plenty of options afterwards. Bob is also blessed with one of the best ranged jabs in the game, further boosting his ability to control the tempo of a match. Once Bob gets in from his wave dash, he also has some devastating 50-50 mix-ups, boasting both powerful mids and even his own variation of the notorious Hell Sweep. Bob's wave dash mix-up is in some ways even more ambiguous than the Mishima's. His Hell Sweep is sidestepped to the right, unlike a Mishima Hell Sweep, but this requires much more precise timing. The exception here is Jin, but he's not exactly a Mishima, and his Hell Sweep is also pretty slow. In addition, Bob has forward 2, which tracks sidestep right very strongly. This makes it challenging to use movement as an option against Bob's wave dash, meaning that the opponent is often compelled to challenge it more directly by mashing buttons or guessing the mix-up. While these moves do undeniably carry a risk, their sheer ambiguity and damage potential makes them a constant threat. At close range, the guessing games don't stop, since Bob has an arsenal of mid and low pokes to constantly chip away at the opponent. Despite his girth, Bob's sidestep is surprisingly decent, and his sidestep 1+2 is very evasive, allowing him to slip through counter pokes. Bob also has one of the best power crushes around with forward 1+2. This is fast and evades highs quite well, meaning that the opponent will rarely get a poke absorbed and be able to block. At only -13, it's well worth gambling with, especially at the wall. Once your back is to the wall, Bob is a suffocating presence. He has plenty of dangerous wall-splatting mids, including the previously mentioned forward 1+2, forward 2, and sidestep 1+2. His down back 3+4 low string deals a lot of damage, and also gives Bob significant plus frames to work with. With nowhere to backdash to, the opponent simply has to eat the next mix-up. Since Bob boasts tremendous wall damage and has powerful wall okizeme, very often the opponent will be reluctant to duck, allowing Bob to literally walk all over them. While Bob's crouching punishment is pretty good, having the rare advantage of a 14-frame launcher, and strong standing punishment up until 14 frames, he's one of the few characters to lack a 15-frame launcher. This allows certain characters to play a bit more wacky. This also lends itself to some minor weaknesses in punishing whiffs with launchers, but down back 1+2 has helped out with these a bit, and he can of course punish mistakes with forward 2-3 or his up forward 1+2 string for solid damage. Bob has to get in and take risks if he wants to get anywhere. This means that a strong defensive opponent with a good understanding of the holes in his strings and how punishable they are on block can really make Bob work for his damage. Bob is a safer character now in Season 3, but you're gonna have to risk that Hell Sweep at some point. While Bob has powerful counter-hit tools, they tend to get capped at a certain speed, most notably at around 13 to 14 frames. His Magic 4, Down Forward 2, and other counter-hit tools therefore fade in effectiveness slightly when he goes up against characters with faster options, such as Law, Kazumi, and Steve, who can brawl him out and shut him down without letting him get his wave dash mix-up started. While Bob's pokes aren't quite up there with the very best, at the other end of the spectrum, the lack of things like a normal hitting God Fist or equivalent also means that Bob doesn't quite have the oomph to fight true Mishimas in a spacing matchup. Basically, he has to tune his approach a bit. He tends to have to rush down spacing characters in an infight, and against poking characters, has to employ a more careful approach by managing the life lead and occasionally stealing big chunks of damage back with his mix-ups or a wall series. In Season 3, Bob's strengths have been consolidated, while some of his major weaknesses have been rounded off. On top of this, he received virtually no nerfs, overall making him one of the most improved characters. His already powerful poking game is now more versatile thanks to a new string from Down Forward 1 with Down Forward 1, 1+2, where he hilariously flops onto the floor. This doesn't combo on natural hit, but deals considerable damage as a counter-hit string, especially since it also guarantees a free get-up kick. Meanwhile, the natural combo, Down Forward 1-2, is slightly safer on block. On top of this, his Down Back 3 now knocks down on a counter hit, guaranteeing a free back 3. As a plus on hit low that isn't launch punishable by any character except Mita Akuma, this makes it one of the best low pokes in the entire game now. Bob's mids from a wave dash are now also considerably better. Before, he would have to take a big risk if he wanted to launch a crouching opponent, but thanks to his new natural screw combo starter in Crouch Dash 3-4, he's only -11 on block, which is much better than getting launch punished. In fact, the safety on this entire string is better, with Crouch Dash 3 by itself being less punishable, and Crouch Dash 3-2 now leaves him at a very minor disadvantage, allowing Bob to sidestep after and continue his offense. While this is a non-jailing mid-high, the threat of the new string will make opponents hesitant to duck. These options can be practically fuzzy-guarded, but given the depth of Bob's move list and the number of things you need to remember, many people will not be ready to do this. On top of all this, Bob received a litany of other minor buffs. His already terrifying wall Okizeme received a boost with Forward 3+4 now having shorter recovery. 1-1-2 now gives slightly more advantage on hit, while his counter game is improved with a combo after Forward 4-3. Many of his while standing moves are also better, with while standing 4 and while standing 1-3 dealing more damage, which is now also safer, and while standing 3 now knocking down and wall splatting on hit. The only real nerf that Bob received, and this is pretty minor, is that the damage distribution on his notorious down back 3+4 string has changed to favor Bob finishing the string and thus taking more risk. But the string as a whole deals more damage, so even this could be argued to be a buff. Bob was an absurdly stupid character when he was first unveiled in Tekken 6, being the very epitome of low risk, high reward. Even in Bloodline Rebellion, thanks to his notorious down 1, he was a scourge of the tournament scene, and his popularity endured as an easy yet effective character throughout Tekken Tag Tournament 2 as well. In the first version of Tekken 7 though, Bob was rather toothless and mostly a shell of his former self. However, he has been steadily buffed throughout both Season 2 and Season 3, and now the big boy is back to being one of the most dangerous characters on the roster. While he does have to take risks in order to succeed, Bob's high damage potential and ambiguous mix-ups means that he's only ever a few guesses away from taking the round. Bob proves that bigger can indeed mean better. Thanks so much for watching our Bob overview. As usual, we've created an accompanying PDF for your pleasure and convenience. Also, as a special thank you to our subscribers, all our overviews from now on will also be accompanied with a wallpaper for your desktop based on the thumbnail. We've also gone back and created updated thumbnails for Akuma through to Asuka, and yes, their wallpapers are also available. As usual, a massive thank you to our patrons. We couldn't create as much content as we wanted to this month for a variety of reasons, but we're locked and loaded to make 2020 a huge year. Anyway, up next, you gotta face the Fury with Brian Fury.